Okay, so let me start recording now. So like I was saying, we stopped somewhere here. Yesterday, we were looking at selectors, and we said we have so many types of selectors that we can use in CSS. The first one we looked at was the universal selector, where we use the asterisks, and then the element selector, where we use the name of the element. For example, paragraph. And then we looked at the ID selector, and we said this only applies to one element or just a unique element. And we denote this using the hash. So every time you see the hash and a name, just know now that is an ID selector. Then we looked at the class selectors, and we said for this, we denote them using the period or a full stop or a dot, whatever you want to call it. And every time you see a dot, just know that is a class, and this can be applied to so many elements. We looked at the descendants, where we looked at the children and the grandchildren of the different tags. So if you want to have a style applied to a tag that follows some hierarchy, then you use the descendant selector. Then also looked at the child, where I use the angle bracket. Some people call it the greater than sign. And this would help you style elements that are direct children of some element. So you're interested in the direct children of some element. Then also looked at adjacent siblings. So if you want the brothers and sisters to have the same style, you use the plus sign. Then we also looked at the general siblings. So if you're looking at all the siblings, then we said you could also use that kind of styling. Now, what we didn't look at was the grouping. So often several selectors in a style sheet share the same style or same rules in the declaration. So you can group them into a comma separated list to minimize the code that you write in your sheet. So it also prevents you from repeating the same style rules over and over again. So you see, for example, I want my heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3 to be normal, to have the same style normal. So I want them to have the same style normal. Now, so the font weight for all the headings, H1, H2, H3, it should be normal. So instead of me coming to H1, because H1, H2, H3 all have different heading sizes. They are different, they have different font sizes. So if I wanted to have them have the same font weight that is normal, then I would define it once. I don't have to come here and say font weight normal, font weight normal. It's the same property and value. So I would say I want H1, H2, H3 to have a font weight normal. So you define it in one line, and then it applies to all the rest. So if I wanted to make an update here, maybe to make these things bold, I would just say, come here and say font weight bold, and all my heading 1, 2, 3 will actually be bold. So this is grouping, and so you can separate things with commas. Okay, we could look at an example of this. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so I'll Okay. So I'll create the file here in your folder. Then I say, I paste my code here and I say save as grouping .html. I say grouping selector .html. Then I will save. So in this case, this is how I would write it. So I would have font weight normal, font weight normal, font weight normal for all the headings. So this is one way. But you see, I'm repeating this in all the headings. It's the same thing. So if I run this in the browser, okay, localhost. So we are in BIS 2021 CSS BIST B. If I refresh this, grouping selector is here. If I click on it, you see my headings are like this. So now if I wanted to make a change, if I wanted to use bold instead of normal, that means I have to change 3 parts. I'll change there, change here. Now if I refresh my page, you see that my headings will be bold a little bit. Now, but if I had written it like this, if I had written it like this, if I had said H1, comma, H2, comma, H3, and I had font weight equal to bold, then I wouldn't need this. I would just delete this, this, and this. So this would actually give me the same result. So if I go to the browser and I refresh, you see I'm getting the same result. Now, if I wanted to make an update here, I'll just come here and say normal. So change one place and then I refresh. My headings go back to normal. So this is a good way of having these headings. So grouping selectors is a good thing. Okay, let's look at some other selectors. These are somehow sophisticated selectors. Now, what we call attribute selectors, and we all know what attributes are. So if I have a tag like input, I can set type submit. That would be for a button. I can set type text. That would be for a text field. So we can use search so that you look for all tags that have a type, for example, submit. Those are all buttons. So you can say, I want all my buttons to have this style. So I want all my paragraphs that have some attribute like title to have this style. And this can be done using the attribute selectors. So look at an example of an attribute selector. So look for a file called attribute selectors. So it's here. Okay, it's here. This is the file. I'll just run it in the browser. So you see these are my fields, and they have a nice border there, and then they even have a background color inside. So if you've ever seen such fields, just know they can all be done by the CSS. So let's look at the code. Page source. So I think the best thing is to copy this and paste it to the other side and save it. Create a new file so that it's not in the exercise files. Okay. So I'm going to give it the same name. Okay. Okay, so it will be better if I show it from here because the codes are colored a bit. So you will see that. So the CSS style sheet starts from here. So I can set type text CSS. Now, let me increase the size a little bit. Okay, that's our CSS. So we are saying every time you find an input, so the input is the tag, and then you put square brackets and you say type text. So every time you find an input of type text, so in this case, it would be this. This is our input here. And this is another input. But this one you see it is password. This is type password. But still we are saying if you find input type text, comma, so we see we are using the grouping again. So we are saying comma, and you find another input type password. So this should have the same style. So the type text and type password should have the same style. So we are saying the width should be 150 pixels. And we are saying display block. So it should be on a new line. So every time you find it, just put it on a new line. So that's why our things are actually on a new line. If you're keen enough, you'll see that each is on a new line. So this field here would be on the same line with the label, but it's on a new line. Password is the label is on top, but the field is down because we are saying display block. Then we are saying margin bottom should be 10 pixels. So leave some space at the bottom. So you see there's some space here for it to look good. So leave some space, that is the margin. And we are saying give it a background color of yellow. So you can see that it has a background color of yellow. Then we are also saying input type submit, and we are saying padding to 10. So padding, every time you see padding to 10, this padding means, so this means top bottom, and this means left right. So on the top bottom leave 2 pixels, and on the bottom leave sorry, at the left and right leave 10 pixels. So that's what it means. So leave some space here, some small space here, and then some big space here. So you see there's some big space here, so that there's a lot of space here. And then we are saying the border should be 1 pixels solid, and the color should be this. So if you're keen enough, you see that this button has a border of that color. The border is that color. And then we are saying give it a background of this other color. So the background is this. So that's the whole idea. So you see we are using input, that is the name of the tag, but we are using the attributes now, because the type equal to submit is actually what? It's actually an attribute. So we're using an attribute, and we're able to pick specific fields. So you see we are able to style this as an input, and style this as a password, and also style this as a submit button. So all my submit buttons in this page will have this kind of style. Any questions? Any questions before I continue? Yes. Okay. So there are no questions. So that's the idea with attribute selectors. So we go back to the slides. We have what we call pseudo classes. Pseudo classes. Now the style sheet here, the CSS attributes selectors. Hey, sorry, I didn't change this. This shouldn't be that. That should be something different. So we are talking about pseudo class selectors. So anyway, pseudo class selectors, we usually use them when it comes to links. So they are usually used when we talk about links. So if you want to make your thing a bit dynamic, so that when someone moves the cursor, there's a change. So things like on hover, things like active, things like focus. So those are the things that we have here. You've seen tables that have one row having a different color from the second row. So the first row having a different color from the second row, and then the third row having the same color as the first row. So you find even rows have the same color and odd rows have the same color. So this all can be done with pseudo class selectors. So the CSS pseudo class selectors allow you to style the dynamic states of an element, such as hover, active, focus, and with this you can make your page a bit dynamic. So you can even, as well as have elements that are existing in the document tree, but can target via the use of other selectors without adding any IDs, classes to them. So you don't have to add classes to them. You can just say, I want the first element, I want the last child element. So you can use such selectors, and you'll be able to color different parts of the page. So I will show you some example of the pseudo. Let's go to pseudo class.html. Okay, so still there. So I'll update the slides. Let me just look for this file. So pseudo class HTML. So this one here. Okay, so I'm going to, let me just have this code in again here. So I paste, I save as pseudo. Pseudo underscore class selector, but I'll just say class. And I'll say .html. So with this example, we have a table. So we have a table in the style. So still I can set type. Like I said, this is a good thing to set type. But even if you don't put it there, it works. So table, and I'm saying the margin of the table should be 30 pixels. So margin, when you find margin alone and 30 pixels, it means margin on top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. So we are going to look at this in this class. I will explain some of these. But our goal here is now to show you things that you could do. So our goal is to just show you this, the pseudo selector. So we are saying that the table should have this margin, and then the border collapse should be collapse. So we are also going to look at borders. Some students were asking me about the same borders. So you're going to see the effect of this. So we're going to have to look at borders in this class. So table, and we are saying TR. So we are saying all TRs should have a bottom border of 1 pixel solid, and then the color should be that color, some shade of gray. Then we are saying that for all tables, TR and TH, so we are interested in the TH. So for all TH that are children of TR and table, and for all TDs that are children of TR and table, so again, we are using the grouping. We are saying that padding be 10 pixels. And then we are saying table TR, and we are saying for all the nth child, every time you say 2n, 2n is even, isn't it? So for the nth child, so this is the pseudo selector I'm talking about. So if you say 2n, any number times 2 is an even number, right? So if you say 1 times 2, it will be 2. 2 times 2, it will be 4. So it's the even number. We are saying the TDs should have a background equal to that. So if I run this in the browser, I will have something like this. If I run this in the browser, first close these, then go back here. I refresh, I go to sudo class. So I would have something like that. I would have something like that. So if you've seen such tables, yes, this can be created using CSS. So that is for the nth child, but we can have simple ones. We can also have simple ones for just links. I can show you a simple example with links. So I can come back this side, create a new file, and I save this as sudo links.html. So this is a simple, example of the pseudo, but using links now. So you see, I have I'm saying for every link, the link should be blue. Then I'm saying a visited should be none. Text declaration none means you remove the underline, right? And we are saying on hover, it should be red. On active, it should be gray. And then on focus, if someone focuses on the link, it should be yellow. So let me run this in the browser. So our link is just one link, which is this A up to this. So it takes you to some link here. Okay. So let me click, let me open that link in the browser and then show you. I refresh here, then I click here. Now you look at my link. Let me zoom in so that it's big. So you see, if I come here and I put the cursor, it becomes red. Becomes red. If I click on it, you see I'm holding the key now. I click and hold the key. If I click and hold the key, that means it's active, right? So it's focus. I'm focusing on it. So it should be yellow. That's why it's yellow. If I release, it goes back to that color. So if you want to make your links that active, Then you use CSS. So that's the whole idea here. So okay, we'll go back to our elements, and now we're going to look at pseudo elements. So I know you're not seeing anything. I'm going to share again my screen. My screen just went off. Hope I didn't go out. I think I went out. No, I think I'm still in. So I can. So someone asks a question. What's the difference between say, selector pseudo classes and anchor pseudo classes? Okay. Now the one for the table. You saw the one for the table. Yes. You saw the one for the table. Semakura. Yes. So that is a what? That is an example of. That is an example of Semakura, the one for the table where we had the nth. You're saying it's anchor again. That shouldn't be anchor really. Should that be the anchor really? So you're saying that's someone says that is the pseudo class. This guy says selector pseudo class and anchor pseudo class. So there are two. We have, so all these are pseudo classes, right? So these all are pseudo classes, but one is the anchor. Anchor, you know what an anchor is? An anchor is a link, right? Anchor tags. Every time someone talks about an anchor, they mean the links. So there are those that are for links. Those are called anchor pseudo classes. Then the one that we looked at, is the one for the nth. That would be an example of a selector pseudo class. So hope I've answered your question. So back to the slides. So let's look at pseudo elements. Pseudo elements. So the pseudo elements allow you to style the elements or part of the element without adding an ID. So the goal of this is for us not to start adding classes and IDs. You know, for the other examples, we use IDs, classes. You have to add a class to the element. But for this case, you don't have to add these IDs and classes, but you can still style them. So let's see an example of the pseudo elements. So pseudo elements is here. Like I said, I will first open it in the browser, and then save it to this side. Okay, so I would say sudo elements .html. Now, some of these you'll get to learn them as you start using them. So you see, we have this. And in this case, we are using two things here, two full colons. So you say P, and you say the first letter should have this color. The first letter should be that color, and then the font size should be XX dash large. So that means the first letter of this paragraph should be big. Okay. So what were we dealing with? Pseudo elements. So you see, you can have such things. These are common in newspapers. They usually have the first letter bigger than the rest. So you can do all this. Okay. So in your free time, you look at this. In your free time, you read about all these attribute selectors, pseudo class selectors, then pseudo elements. Okay. So let's look at property value forms. Which values are allowed and which values can you have in CSS. Okay. So there are around 60 different properties. And usually these fall under these categories. These are the common categories. So you could have things like, fonts. So you have properties like fonts. You have properties for lists. You have properties for aligning of text. You have properties for margins. You have colors. You have backgrounds. You have links. You have borders. So of course there are so many other properties you could have here, but these are the most common ones. So we'll look at one at a time. So let's look at values. So with the values of properties, you can have keywords, things like left, small. You've seen XX large. You've seen bold. So those are some of the values you could have for your properties. So you've seen bold, bolder. You've seen normal. So those are all keywords that you can actually use as property values. Then you could also have length. Length in numbers. You could have even decimal points. So those are allowed. So you could, for numbers, you can have units. And these units could be pixels, could be inches, could be centimeters, millimeters. But you need to understand these before you use them. So could be points, could be pieces. So a PC has 12 points. It could be EM, the height of letter M. Could be EX, the height of letter X. So these are different units that you can use in property values. So you can say width 20 pixels. You can say width 20 inches. You can say width 20 centimeters. So you can use any of these. You can say width 1.5 EM. But you need to understand their sizes. Otherwise, you may find some are actually bigger than the others. So no space is allowed between the number and the unit. So it's not allowed to say 1.5 inch and you have some space in the middle here. It's not good to say 20 pixels and you put a space and then, so you say 20 and then space, then px. So that's not allowed. So make sure it's one thing. So 1.5 inches. So the I should come here. Okay. You could also have percentages. Just a number followed by a percentage sign. You could say 20%, you could say 100%. You could also have URLs, and for URLs, you'd have the word URL, and inside you can say protocol, then the server name, and then the path name. So we could also have colors as values. You've seen these colors. Yesterday we used the color that is called forest green. So you can have a color like white, you can have black. So there you could use words, color names, but you just have to know these color names. Yeah? You don't just type any color. So there are some color names. There's a list of color names online that you could look at, and you could use any of those colors. If you have a good editor, it can also show you a list of colors that you can use. So the other thing is you could use hexa colors, hexadecimal colors. That means you have, so hexa means, hexa is base what? Hexa is base. Can I see the base in the chart? Which base is this? Base 8. What about octa? Hexadecimal is the what is hexa? Base 64. You people, now you're all off. Base 2. What about binary? What about binary, people? Base 6. There's no base. I've never heard of base 6. It's base 16, right? So which values can we have here? We can have values from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then the one that is supposed to be 10 becomes capital A, becomes A, isn't it? It becomes A, B, C, D up to 15, isn't it? If it's base 2, you can have 0 and 1, right? So base 2 is 0, 0 and 1. Base 8 is 0 to 7. Base 10 is 0 to 9. Base 16 is 0 to 15. So A for 10 and F for 15. So we have hexas, and these, so the first two x's here will represent red. The second two x's will be green, and then the last two x's would be blue. That's how you code this. So if I find something like this, F, 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 F. If you get red, same amount of red, and you join it with green, and then blue, so they all have the same amounts, what do you get? Which color do you think this is? Can I see the answer in the chat? So I have the same amounts of green, red, and blue, and I combine them. Which color do I get? So this is white, right? And if I have 0, 0 throughout, that will be black. This is white. So we have RGB, so you could also use something like this. So instead of the hexa with the hash, you could say RGB 255, 255, 255. So these numbers here can range from 0 to 255. Is that okay? So you can have any value here. So again, if I have 255, 255, 255, this is white. If I have 0, 0, 0, and it's an RGB, then it will be black. Okay. Any questions about the colors? This time your worry was about what? Okay, so no questions. We can continue. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at. Someone says, what's the difference between X and RGB? One is using hexadecimals and the other one is using the 0 to 55. Who knows the difference between the two? We have some someone with the difference between the two. So I wouldn't say there's a big difference. So one you have decimal values, and the other one you have numbers from 0 to 255. But it's the same thing. It's the same RGB. It's all using the same RGB thing. So someone says it's a different way of saying the same thing. Guy has an answer, the right answer. So they are the same. They're the same. So you can actually have, you can even convert hexa to RGB and you get the same colors. So I don't know. Maybe there's a difference, but I don't see any difference. Okay, me I usually prefer using hexa, right, to RGB, but some people use RGB and they are okay with it. So any can work for you. So font family as a property can have a list of font families. So you say font, my paragraph should have, all paragraphs should have the font family type New Romans. Now, we use double quotes. Sometimes you'll see double quotes on some. You see these quotes, and on these you're not seeing any quotes. So if the font family has so many letters, so the words, so many words, like time, you see space, new, space, Romans, then that means you need to have them in quotes because it's one thing. But if it's something like times, it's one word, you don't have to put it in quotes. So if you ever find some things in quotes and others not in quotes, because some have so many words and the others only have one word. Now, what the browser does, it looks for, it uses the first value in the list. So for example, if you had these listed like this, they will pick the first one. If the browser has it, so if the browser does not have the Time New Roman, then it will use the second one. And if it doesn't have the second one, it will use the third one. If it doesn't have this third one, then it will use its default font family. So that's how this works. So you give it some options. If it doesn't have all of them, it will use its own. Okay. Font size, possible values. You could have a number or a name. You could have things such as smaller. You've seen XX large. So you can have any value here. So you could have in pixels, you could have in in EM, you could have them in percentages. You can have a word like XX large. You can have a word as smaller. So any of these can work. Now they are telling you here that now you need to understand the difference between pixels and EM. EM usually looks at what you've defined for your body. So which font size have you defined for your body? Then it uses that size to determine which size it should use. So that's the EM and the percentages. So they usually use what you had. So if you in your body you had 100, so if you had like 30 pixels as you are 100, then it will take that 30 pixels. Now for this case, you see, we are saying 30 divided by 16. So the default is usually 16. They get the size in pixels divided by 16. So if you gave it 1.875 EM, for it to get the number of pixels to fill, it would get this times 16. And then they will use your 30 pixels. So please read about the EM and try to understand how this EM works. So there's a tutorial I'm going to put in these slides. You go through that tutorial. I'll actually try to explain to you the difference between the EM and the pixels. But they say that specifying the font size in percentages and EM displays the same size in all major browsers. So the good thing about the EM and percentage is that they will have the same size in all browsers and allows all browsers to resize the text. So your browsers will be able to resize the text very well. So if you're using things like Bootstrap, you find that they rarely use these pixels. They use a lot of percentages and the EM. Okay. So those are font families, font sizes. Let's look at some examples of properties. We have what we call the font weight. Sorry, font style. So font style has the normal. So in this case, we have normal, but you can also have italics and you can also have oblique. So italics. So what do you think is the difference between italics and oblique? Let's do. We have some examples here, but we can still create a new. So let me just say fonts. I'll create something to and call it fonts. So new, and I use the basic skeleton, HTML skeleton. So what is this? Done. So I save as, I say font. Where am I typing? I say font dot HTML. Now I can have my style here. So in this class we've been using a lot of the document level style sheet, but you can also use the external. So I can say my paragraph, to have, so I say We're looking at text. What we're looking at? Text style, text what? I don't even remember style. So it's font style, not text style. So looking at font style. Font style. Now this style can have these three values. So you can see, you know what italic means. So I will have some text. I will have some text in my paragraph here. So I'll have some paragraph here, and I paste in some text. But if I go to the browser and then I refresh, I will have a file called font. So I can click on font. Then you see this is italic. Italic. So I have something I've typed, I think, down here. That's why it's showing. So if I said italic, if I added a class and I say class italic, and then I create another paragraph, and I use, instead of italic here, I say oblique terminate. So I use the same thing here, have the same paragraph, but this time I have oblique. So who can tell me the difference between the two? Is there a difference? Is there a difference between the two? Are you seeing some difference here? So this is the same text. Someone says no. Okay, let's put the other one. Let's create another paragraph, and also do this. And we say, so the other one was, the other value is normal. And we say normal and normal. Now let's see. So is there a difference really? So at least normal, you see it's not italic, but this is looking the same as the other one. But if you look keenly, I mean the same really. If you look keenly, you see that this is just tilted a bit, but it's not the same as this. Oblique should be tilted, but of course in some browsers it doesn't show that, they don't show the effect. But there has to be some difference. So there's a small difference, but at some point that oblique wasn't even showing any difference. But there has to be a difference between the two. So let me pick something here, see whether it has some difference. Font sizes. Okay, font family. Okay. Let me just put some other code now. I want to paste this. So I have normal, italic, and Let's run them in the browser and see whether we get the same thing. Do you see this? So I think it's the same. It's close to the same. Okay, some people in some books they tell you that the oblique is even useless because they look the same, right? Though in some books they will tell you that that at first glance you might think oblique and italic appear the same, but they say that there's some difference. So an italic style uses the italic version, while the oblique, on the other hand, uses a slanted or a sloped version of the normal text. So it's the normal text, but a bit slanted. It's a bit slanted. So, but they say they are not the same. But if you look at them, they look the same. They look the same. So, okay. Then we have what we call the font weight. Now, the font weight is the degree of boldness. And you can have things like bolder, lighter, bold, you can have normal. You could even have numbers. So you can even have numbers. I can come here on the normal and I say font weight and I put values. So you see there are values already. So you could pick any of these values, or you could use the word bolder, bolder, bold, inherit, lighter, normal. So you could use any. So when I want something to be bold, I usually start from 800. 800 will give me something a little bit bold. But the smaller the value, the lighter the thing. So if I said 400, so I will have something like that. So to be a bit lighter, you might not even know that it has that property. So I usually start from 800, 700 there. That's when you start seeing some effect. If not, I use the word bold, and then you see it bold. Okay. Font variant. The values here are normal. So you can have normal, and they will be normal. You could have small caps, and then you can have inherit, and you can have the initial. So you can try out the, I'll do the normal and small caps. You try out the initial and try to understand what inherit means. So inherit, you know what inheritance is, isn't it? So you're saying pick from the parent, right? Yeah, pick the characteristic of the parent. So in small caps, all lowercase letters are converted to uppercase letters. However, the converted uppercase letters appear in a smaller font size than the original uppercase letters. So you've seen these small caps. Even in my slides, I think I have small caps. You see this word font properties? You can see that the first letters, these were actually uppercase in my code. These are uppercase and these are lowercase. But you see they're all uppercase, but this F is bigger than these are the ones. So P is also bigger than the rest. Why? Because at first for it, P and F were uppercase, and the other ones were lowercase. So if I go to my code, my LaTeX here, you would see things like selectors, siblings. Scroll down, inches, values, property value forms. So you see things like font properties. You see, whenever you see this. So that is font properties. Like, I don't know if I can make this bigger. If I escape, I will have something bigger. So you see that these words here, So those words. The ONT are in lowercase and the F is in uppercase. That's why they are sided ones like that. So you can also do the same. So by saying font variant. So those are the options. Normal, inherit. Then small caps. I could say small caps. And if I refresh in my browser, you see, it's only the T, this T that had an uppercase. You can see it's taller than the rest. All these are in uppercase now, but this one is taller than the rest. So that's the font variant. Okay. So it's a common thing. It's a common thing that people usually use. Now, instead of you saying font family, font style, font weight, font variant, and specifying one at a time, you could now use just the font. You see, this is just the word font, which is here. See? So instead of using font style, font weight, font variant, font family, you could just use one word font, and then you can specify all the other values. But now the challenge with this is that you should know the order. You must follow some order. So if I wanted to put the style, I should make sure that the style is the first, then the weight is the next, the size is the next, and then the font names are the last. So that should be the order. If you don't follow that order, then it won't work. So for example, I would say heading 2 should have a font. I'm saying border. This border is for the weight. You see, I'm not putting the style. I'm not saying italic, oblique, or normal, but I'm starting from the weight, so which is okay. But if I wanted to put the style, I have to make sure it's the first one here. So you have to follow that order. So style, weight, and then the size. So I don't know whether editors can actually do that. Me, I like splitting them. I don't know whether editors can give you that option. If I say font, see, it doesn't even give you anything here. So you can't have an idea what to start with. So you have to follow that order. But me personally, I prefer having one at a time. So if it's font style, I say font style. I'm not defining all of them in one thing. So we have some files here you should look at in your free time and see how they were defined. Okay. Let's look at lists. Lists are important. So we have the property list style type. So on an ordered list, the list type can be used to specify the shape of the bullets. So you remember last time I said in HTML the default is disk, and then square, you can have square or you can have circle for unordered lists. And this is set in either the UL, so you can set it in the UL or the LI tag. So here is an example. And in this case, they are saying LI, and they are saying style, and they are saying list style type is disk. Here they are saying list style type is square. That one is circle. So this would give you an output. If I pick that code, which is here, and I take it to the browser, I'll just use this example. So you see here we are using inline. This is inline style. We are defining the CSS inside the tags by saying style and then the. Now if I run this in the browser, it would give me something like this. So the first one will have a disk, the second one a square, and the other one a circle. So you can define these types. Then let's look at the list style type. And this can also be used in ordered lists. So if you wanted your ordered list to have a type new Romans, a type lower alpha, so you could also use the list style type. So here is our example, and let's go to a file called sequence types. Okay, so this file sequence types is here, and so you can see we have a big list. We have a very big list of aircraft types, and we have general aviation, piston, and these are the different types of general aviation, and then commercial aviation. So these are general, and these are the commercial ones. Now we have another list inside. So we have a single engine, and then the dual. So here we have dual. We start from dual, and then we have the. So you can see here we have one I, upper Roman, upper alpha, and then this has numeric 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. So AB, AB. So for us to create something like this, we just write like 3 lines of code. And these 3 lines of code are here. You see this? I'm saying the first level, if we find an OL, give it a list style, upper Roman. And that's the upper Roman you saw this here and this. Now we are saying if you find OL, which is OL, then you should have the upper alpha. You see, this is upper alpha. That's why we have AB, A and B. So A, and then so this A here and B here. Then again we have the OL and OL again. So this is the second level because the other OL is up there. This is the second level. So the first value is here, and the second value is there, here. So you can do this. You can number your list very well with just 3 lines like this. So like the first OL, the first level should have upper Roman, the second level should have upper alpha, and the third level should have the decimal. These are numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So with this, you get something like that. Otherwise, if you are using HTML, you will come here and say type, type I, isn't it, capital I? Then you come here and you say type A, and you come here and you say type A again. Otherwise, the default will be 1, 2. So, but with CSS, you can change these in with a few lines. Any questions about the lists? Okay. So let's look at the image. So instead of using the bullets, so instead of using these disk, square, and circle for unordered lists, you can also have the list style image. And this will use the images. Now let's try that out, that example. So I will create a new list. This time it's unordered, and then I can have my elements. So I can have, what can I have here? What can I have? I'm looking for a list I could use. Which list can I use? You can just use your names, Apollo. These are people who have attended the class today. So I can also have let's copy this. Who else has attended the class? Guide. And then who else? Ronald. Ladies will be unhappy. Let me pick a lady. People might think I'm only teaching boys. Sophie, isn't it? I know your name is Sophia, not Sophie. Let me use another female here. Name is more a girl. I don't know. Lydia. That one is a very common one. Lydia. This is my list. If I run this in the browser, which is here. Where is that file? I'll just do the localhost again. I don't know where it is. It will just disturb me for no reason. So I go to CSS, list2. Which file are we dealing with? It's called font. So look for font. So this is my list here of Apollo, Wire, Ronald, Sophia, and Lydia. Now let's go to the CSS and write some CSS here. So I will say UL for all my ULs. And I say list style image. So there's inherit, there's none. I can use this. So I have my image in this folder. I have a small image called ul.png. So and I terminate. So if you put a cursor, if you have a nice editor, it will show you the what? Where is a female? Okay. I didn't know. Most of the widows are male, really. Maybe you got it from your dad. So that's my image, but it should be a small image. Otherwise, if you make it a very big image, so you see the dimensions of this image is 22 times 18 pixels. So it's a very, very small image. So it's good to have a smaller image. So this is an image of a camera. Now, if I run this in the browser, now it has even changed all of them. It has overridden even these. So this here has overridden even these. It may be because it's defined up there. So you will see that I will have such images for my lists. So that's one thing that you could do. Okay. Now, still, like the font, you remember the font had a short form. And we also have a shorthand here for the list property. So instead of saying list style type, list style position, list style image, you could have just list style, and then in this list style you can put everything. So you see, for example, you're saying ul list style. We are not saying list style type or anything. We're just saying list style, and then we are saying square. So the order should be the type. The next one should be the position. So you see, you have inside, and then the URL, the image. So in case the square is not there, then they can always use this other image. So you read about the list style position. So this specifies whether the list item marker should appear inside or outside. So the default is outside. Usually the markers are outside, but you can also have them inside. So you try out the inside in your free time. Try out this in your free time. The image, you all know the image. We've done the image. Okay. Colors. Colors are very important. Colors are very, very important. You cannot have a nice page without colors, really. Not so many colors again. Don't use so many colors. So you should use around 2 to 3. 2 to 3 colors are enough. But if you use 5, that will be so colorful. You will have like Fanta is the one that likes colors. Fanta and Riham what? The Riham Fanta is called Fantastic. The ones that like colors, and then Mirinda. They are so colorful. So it's good to use a few colors when you're designing any system. A minimum of 2, a maximum of 3. If you go beyond 3, then that is a rainbow. So the background color property specifies the background color of elements. Color is the foreground. So if you say color, then that's the foreground. But if you say background, that is the background color of an element. So here is an example of the background and the color. So I will just go here and look for back color. So you see this has a background color of black. This paragraph has a background color of black and a color of white. So the text is white, that's the foreground, and then black is the background. If I say view page source, then you will see. So this, like I said, be careful. See here, I'm saying red, red back. But in my background color, I'm putting black. See, the color is black, not red. So me saying P red doesn't mean that it will actually be a red background. You understand? So this can be any name. Like I said, you could put Seva Chije, but of course you need to put something that actually makes sense. But if I say red back and I put black, it will be black, not red, because the color is defined here. So you see, when I see the first paragraph has the class red back, and it's having a white color, so the text should be white and the background should be blue. So it should be black, white and black. Then the other paragraph, of course, will be black. So meaning the default is that the text should be black and the background should be white. But you can change it wherever you want. Okay. Okay, text indent. Text indent is usually used to push your text away from the margin. And this can take either a value like pixels, it can even take a percentage. So you know what text indent is? We could try out an example. I could say for the normal, here I can say text indent. Then I can say 200 pixels. I want you guys to see the effect. So if I come back this side and I go to let me just go to localhost, paste CSS, paste 2, and then I look for font. So I've said 200 pixels, and you can see where this starts. That's what they call indenting. So this one is some pixels far away from the margin. So usually people use a smaller value like 20. 200 is big, so 20 would be something like that. That's the indenting. Then we also have text decoration. This property removes the underline from links. This we've done before in class. We've done this. So it removes the underline. Then you can have text align, and the possible values are left. That's the default. Center, right, we justified. So this just aligns the text whatever you want. So I can say for the italics, what happens if I say text align, and I say center. Now there's end, there's left, there's match, parent, is start. So there are different options that you could have, but the most common ones are left, right, and then center. So this is the center, so it's in the middle of the page. Then we have what we call the float property. This is so common with images and text. So if you want your text to float around an image, then you can use the float property. So you can have one element floating around another element. So the values that we have here are left, right, and also none. So the default is none, but you can also have left and right. So let's try out the float with this file float. So what I will do, I will first open it. Then I pick the code. So I would say, I'm clicking on the image, view page source. Let me just copy this. Now this is using XHTML. You see that I have XHTML, so I'll call it float.html. So how do you know this is XHTML? Because we have the XML prologue telling us the version, and then we have the doc type. We are using the XHTML 1.1.DTD. Then we have the namespace. So this is XHTML. And then we can have our head and the rest. So in this case, we have, this is the only CSS that we have. And we are saying for every image, float right. So we are saying for every image, you float it on the right. So you see we have two paragraphs. One paragraph has the image with a Prado TX. This should be Prado, not Cessna. Should be Prado TX. Now, so this is the GIF image, and this is the other paragraph. It has a lot of text. So it's talking about a Cessna, and not Prado TX. So I can pick some text for a Prado TX, Land Cruiser. Of course, these cars have changed over time. So I could have my text that is all about TX. tab. Okay. So now, if I go to the browser and I go to okay, go back here. Okay, so it's this tool. I refresh. I say float. So we are dealing with the float now. Now my image is not seen because in that folder we don't have that image. So I can pick that image and take it to that folder. So where is that folder? That folder is on C. We don't have C here, but it's on in var. So we go to IST2205 CSS and IST So we paste our image here. So now if you run it in the browser, find our car. So if of course if I go to 100%, your thing would look like that. But if I keep zooming in, I increase the size of the text, you see that the text will start floating around the what? The image. So you'll have the text floating around the image. But the image, you see the image is on the right because we said float right. So the image should go on the right and then the text can flow around the image. So that's what that does. So that's what that does. So your text will float around the image. So if I come back to this image and I say float left and I refresh, now my image will be on the left and the text will float around the image like that. Okay, any questions? I know I've taught so many concepts, but we need to cover things. I don't know if people have seen your timetable. You should start your exams in January, probably. So in this November, we should move. We should cover some good chapters. This November, we can even cover up to MySQL, and then we can do the PHP when we have physical classes. Now, for physical classes, I think I only teach the day groups. Physical, then evening will stay online. Will stay online because as long as the curfew is still there, I don't see myself teaching evening. So evening will stay online and then we'll have the physicals for the day. Okay. These are backgrounds. So let me see, background repeat. I would want to teach some of these things when you're fresh. So for today, we can stop here. Let's stop here. Then you can go and then tomorrow, is it tomorrow? Next week, Okay, next week we can start from here. Because I've taught so many things. I've taught so many things, and I want you guys to go out there and first try them out. Now, the tutorial I would want you guys to use is this one here. There's some tutorial, the same tutorial I gave you. So you click on, it's called Tutorial Republic. You just click on CSS3, and then they will take you through CSS. So you can read these and try to understand. So just keep clicking next, or you can keep clicking this. So they will teach you so many things. about CSS, and you can always try out the code. That's the good thing. So they give you the code here, and you can change and then show output. So you can change this from red to purple, to green, to any other color. So I can just say green, and then I say show output, and this heading will change to green. So you can try these things out with such a tutorial. So please use this tutorial well. So there are other things that they teach that I don't talk about in CSS, because CSS is wide. So like pseudo classes, pseudo elements. So all these are here. So you could try them out and see the different things. So you see, like they have this, which I don't even talk about. So please go through this tutorial in your free time. See the first letter, the before. So before a heading, you can put an image, and after, so you can have such an image at the beginning and after. So you can do more things with this. So before, after, I've been taught those ones. They could help you in a way. So this is for articles. So you're saying for each article, the first letter, this we did in the class. Then they teach you media. Now these I don't even talk about them. So you can write CSS. They tell you how you can write CSS for the screen, for print, or for both media and for both screen and print. So these are things you need to look at. So you see that's the output, but I think when you say print, then you get something different. You see the color is red. When you print, the color is red. But before you do that, it's green. So the colors are different. So you see the one for this is red because see RGB. See this R is FF, meaning it's full red. These ones are just lighter, so it's a bit red. If you look at this, you can see that it's RGB. CD is bigger than 3232. So it's closer to green. So you can read about all this. Because CSS is wide, I can't start teaching everything. I might not finish. CSS alone can be a course on its own. Someone says, how do you make the background of an image disappear? There you have to edit the image. You have to edit the what? The image. Anyway, there's if I wanted to have this image without a background, the one that we're using in the class. Where's my link? Every time I share this, it misbehaves. So let me do localhost. So I know the image you're talking about. So I said front. So you're talking about which you meaning this background here? Yes. Here you have to use other applications like Firefox or Photoshop, and you remove the backgrounds. So, but we can look at this when we reach at the back. Let's discuss those. I will have for you an example when we talk about backgrounds, and because we are going to look at backgrounds now. So I'll show you the different images. I will create for you a PNG and a JPEG. Then I show you the difference between the two and how you can have an image that doesn't have a background. So Clarissa, you remind me when you reach here. I will do for you examples. I can edit some, and but this I would want to teach this when you're fresh, because this is very important. Backgrounds are important, and I would want you guys to be fresh before I can explain things like background repeat, attachment, scroll. And I want to do this in class so that get to learn this background. So let's start from here next time. Okay. Have a good day.